and I could retire and just pop these pills the rest of my life. This is perfect. So I'm like planning this big thing in my head. I'm like, this is really nice.
The doctors, they get on board because the reps come to them and they give them all the samples, and if you prescribe this, you get this. Like, that's how it works. And is that ever going to change? I don't know. It's been going on for a long time.
Trauma, we all know. Speaking
Good
of
trauma.
Yeah, so we all are doing continued work, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit about in recovery, so the continued work versus the just being comfortable? And
well, it's funny because you talk about yours at the 10-year mark. 2 years ago, I was on a job coaching somebody, and I was on that job for a year, actually over a year. But I wasn't happy, and it wasn't because of the job. It wasn't because I was on the job for so long. It was just like I had lost. Something was just missing, and I was like, what is wrong with me? I wanted to die. I was depressed. My wife, she's like, what's going on with you? I was not connected with my wife anymore. I was turned off to my kids. Like, I was just blank. And I was at that point. Like, at that time, I had 8 years sober, but it was like I had compiled all of my history from prison and growing up, but then I started piling on in recovery, working, because I've faced so many traumatic situations working in recovery. You know, I've had guns pulled, like bad things have happened, and I'm piling it on, and I'm piling on, and 2 years ago I just finally it was a bottom. That's all it was, and I was miserable. I wanted to die. I definitely had suicidal ideations. Like, it was all there.
And you're a recovery coach.
And I'm a recovery coach, and my life is great, mind you. Like, my life is great. I had just bought a house. Like, holy crap, I bought a house. Like, oh my God, I owned my house. Like, this is amazing, right? I was miserable. I wanted to die, and I had to put on that face for my family. And I was like, man, this isn't going to work. I couldn't keep being that person. I just couldn't keep it up, because I'm not a miserable person. I'm a happy person. I'll talk to anybody. Like, that's me. And so it was like I was acting to be miserable. I just couldn't figure it. It was just something was off. And then we had Judy Crane. She's always chasing me down, like, when are you going to do it? And you know, God bless that woman, because she welcomed me into that group. And the great thing is I got to do it with the client that I was there with too. So
this is a trauma workshop?
Yeah, trauma intensive. My client did his, and I was over here in a separate group, but we got to do it together. And man, that was powerful. Like, it was super powerful. This guy got to see me at my lowest. Like, he got to see me trying to book a plane. Like, I was literally in group trying to, thank God there was no cell service. But like, to get to that point for me was just complete misery. Like, I still have a great life, but like, then was like at one of the peaks of my career. Like, I was really taking off 2 years ago. Like, things were really working, but I was fucking just miserable, and I wanted to die. And I think that the close friends that I had that pointed it out to me, you know, I knew I was miserable, but I didn't want to. It's hard when you got that much sobriety, and you're like,
gotta go on, a lot of good things happen.
And now you got to go get some help, and like the fear of, you know, the people that you work with, it's a big fear. Like, oh, they're going to think there's something wrong with me, or there's so many thoughts that go into that.
Thankfully, in this industry, though, it's support.
Yeah. Most of the time it is, you know, but there's those times where it's not. But like, that was all just piled on me, and I was just miserable, man. I was so tired. I was ready to die. And somehow I got connected with Judy, and during this time, because I had been miserable, but I had been avoiding her, and somehow it just fell into place. And my client was like, I need to go get some trauma work done. And I was, the light just turned on, and I just immediately was texting Judy, and I was like, hey,
we're ready.
I'm ready. So is my client, but I'm ready, you know. And like, I'm getting chills right now thinking it. And I remember when I got there, I literally, day one, the girl had a severe, like, trauma reaction to what was going on. It was intense, and that was our introduction to the group. And literally, I'm sitting there, and the next day, I'm like, looking on Delta, I'm just like, I'm out of here. And one of the I think it was Tom, he called me. He was like, Tom was called me on. He's like, why are you on your phone? What are you doing, Mike? And I'm like, actually, I'm booking a ticket. Like, that's what I was, because I didn't want to, like, it hurt. Like, it physically hurt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what happened that made me stay. I think it was Charlie, because I had a trauma reaction to Charlie because of my old business partners, and somehow just something clicked, man, and I stayed. And that work that I did there, and the work that I still have to do today, you know, because there's still certain things I have to do on a daily basis to continue to work with that, because my trauma's not gone, it's there, and I'm living trauma every day. Like,
Yeah.
there's more trauma that comes up every day. That's one thing that people don't understand is, like, trauma. There's a lot of trauma in life, and you think that it's not, but it is, and you don't realize that until you're in an intensive, sitting with somebody that knows what they're doing to pull it out of you. Like, it was like pulling teeth for me in there. And when Tom and Judy did it, like, I was scared.
Yeah.
Like, I was scared. I was like, oh shit, it's all okay, now what? Like, they pulled it all. I was scared, and I'm like, I was freaking out. But, you know, if it wasn't for that trauma, I don't know what the future would have been. I don't know if I would have been sitting here. You know, it's hard to think about that. It's scary, actually. Like, I don't want to get to that point again.
I think when you hear people, whether it's in the rooms or whatever, and you hear a lot of people that have 7, 9, 10, 12, 15 years, and they go back out.
Yeah.
I think if you really dug into a lot of their stories, it's because they didn't do that kind of work.
Yeah.
For me, it's just begun the last few months ago, and it will continue for the rest as long as I'm here. But I think it's important that people know that you can have recovery. And anybody I know, it seems to be 4 years, for whatever reason.
Yep.
Seems to be the number.
It's
And
the 4-year, 5-year mark. And then with working in recovery, it's like the 5-7-year mark you get. It just, there's something that happens.
Yeah.
So I just encourage, listen to Ken and Michael, if you are out there and you have these feelings and you're in recovery, but you're not happy and you're having those thoughts, I just went through it. I'm still kind of going through it, but seek more help and dig into the trauma.
I mean, I think that it's probably, you know, getting sober is awesome, you know, but when you can delve into your trauma, like, so much relief comes from it. Like, I was scared to death, but now I'm like, I just want to keep going because I want to be happy all the time, you know? I want to just be that guy that's in those meetings that we go to and that's always happy.
God, is he on drugs?
Like, why is he so happy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be that guy. And for the most part, I think I'm getting there, you know, but it's with guys like you like being able to be around each other and noticing these signs.
Community.
Like, you know, it's important because, and that's what I was telling you about earlier, is like, you know, the rooms, certain people, they try to put us up here like this, and that's dangerous, you know, because I got to a point when I got sober in Prescott, I was really on fire for recovery, and like, I was working for Rick, and I was doing a lot of work, and I was like, oh yeah, look at me, you know, and then people wouldn't tell me the truth. That was the problem. Like, I was acting like a douchebag, you know, but the people around me wouldn't tell me the truth. And that was because I was doing all this work and everybody thought I was just this cool guy, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do, which is call me on my shit. And thank God I had people in my life to do that, because if I didn't, I'd still be full of myself. I'd be using by now. That's a given, you know, but the encouragement and being able to call each other on our behaviors, I think that's key. Like, if you don't have that kind of transparency with somebody, you're in trouble.
And hopefully multiple people.
Yeah.
A community of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can text or call or go have coffee with, and that's how we do it, right?
Because I don't look at any of my success as me at all. It's all God.
It's all
It's all
interdependent
It's
with
all
God,
God.
an interdependent relationship
It's that
with God.
connection that I have with God that gives me the opportunities. Like, how did I get that phone number from that guy? How did that woman that worked with us, how did she get that phone number? You know, it's all about God.
It's all God. It ain't, and it's nothing that we've
Nothing
done.
that
Not
we
one
do.
thing.
It's all God. So if you look at it that way, how do you have an ego?
Well, yeah,
You know,
because it's not, because as
it's
soon
not
as
me.
it's us, then it's prison, or it's being around a brother who passed and jail, and for you, whether it was the God or what, that's when we make, the one commonality and all that is we were making decisions.
Exactly.
That's right.
It was us forcing our will onto the situation.
Yeah.
So speaking of community, you want to talk a little bit about Ken Seeley Communities and your vision of that? And I read a little bit about it, but you want to share what's going on with all that?
Absolutely. So what we've been doing is, because we realized with the doctor diversion programs and the drug courts that we talked about earlier, people get a lot better opportunities for long-term recovery with that.
Yep.
So if you're a doctor or a pilot or somebody with a license that wants to get sober, your state or the governing body will put you into a recovery program. So with the pilots, it's a HIMSS program. With each state, it's a diversion program. So those programs have an 80 to 92% success rate for 5 years. And why does traditional treatment, when I got sober in 1989, it was 3 to 7%. And today, for 30 days, today it's the same thing. People that get out of treatment, it's still the same, 3 to 7. But why do doctors I have a friend of mine that got sober through the doctor diversion program in Florida, and he's got over 30 years clean. So doctors have been doing this for 30 years, and we don't have this available for everyone else. So we finally went out and said, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? Why do doctors get this huge success rate, and why don't the everyday person get the same success rate? And there was 2 components that were different. Number one is they had a case manager, and it's not a case manager in the treatment center. It's somebody that carries that torch, that knows how they're doing through that 5-year period. So that person has somebody that they report back to, because that person has a case manager, and John Southworth did this all the time in his company. He monitored doctors. And that person would stay in contact with them to make sure they're going to their meetings, check their random drug testing, that they're testing clean. They would make sure that they're going to their doctor's appointments, their therapy sessions. So they'd make sure, the drug court, that thing that they have, that's how they came up with that name. They'd have the doctors filling out those forms. So the case manager kept them on track. So if they geared off track, somebody was there to gently bring them back on track. Hey, you're not going to your meetings. I'm going to have to report you to the board.
It's an accountability assistant.
Accountability assistant.
That's what it is.
So I look at it like a trainer at the gym. If you have a trainer at the gym, you're going to show up because you're paying the trainer, and you're going to show up there. You're not going to just drop the ball and say, oh, I'm not going today.
That's right.
You're going to show up because of the accountability. So a case manager for this is more of like accountability for your recovery, just to keep you on track. The other missing component was the intervention. Something happened in their practice, if they're a physician, that they were intervened on, where the medical board was aware now that they have a drug or alcohol problem, and so they intervened and said, you need to enroll in this program. So at their intervention, they had something that means something to them, and it's their licensure. And so these pilots and these doctors, they're going to fight hard because they spent their whole life, and really their identity is who they are, is in their career. So they're not just going to give that up like that. They're not just going to drop it. So the intervention was also the missing link. So we were like, well, we do interventions and we do case management for the general public. Why aren't they getting the same results? And so when we combine them together, all of a sudden we're getting the same results. So each person, what we're doing down at KSC, each person that comes into treatment, I don't care if it was a self-admit, they're getting an intervention. And the intervention isn't really on them. The intervention is on the family system.
That's right.
Because we got to figure out what the licensure is that means something to that individual. So for 4 to 8 hours, I'm working with the family system, or our team's working with the family system, and saying, what means something to him or her? What's the most important things? Like if we were to go around the room right now and I say, what is the most important, 3 most important things in your life right now? You would tell me what they were, things that you wouldn't want to live without. Most of the time it's family. Number 1 is up there, maybe your job. So there's 3 things that when I had my dog, it was my dog. You take my dog away from me, I'll do whatever you say. I'm your hostage, I don't care. Because she was getting old and she was getting sick, so I would do anything for that dog. So there's 3 things that each individual has, and my job is to educate the family that because they have those 3 things, you're supporting their addiction. But if we could take away those 3 things, only if they're not on track. If they're on track, they get those 3 things and 1,000,000 times more. They get you as a family. But if they go off track, they're telling you that they don't love you. They love the drug more than they love you. So if they're telling you that, then let's take away these things. So now we have the licensing board, like the doctors have. We have a license where we're going to take something from them that means something to them, that's going to keep them engaged to stay in treatment. So we just had one that I was telling them yesterday, we just had this one client that the family came in and they were like, if you do not, because he went through 5 treatment centers, and it's not fair. If they would have did this in the first treatment center, what we do, if they would have did this in the first treatment center, he may not have had to go through another
right.
treatment center, right?
That's right.
So the family said, and the family's pretty well off, and the younger brother ended up being the older brother because the older brother ended up being a drug addict, right? So he ended up being more of the mentor for the family, and he's angry at his brother because he's like, you're taking all the energy, you're abusing mom and dad, how dare you? So he's angry. The little brother, he's like all upset about it, and the middle sister, they're all like, all on different wavelengths. But at the pre-intervention that we spend 4 to 8 hours, we get them on the same wavelength. That everybody's going in there, you're in a united front, and you're going to take away from him. You guys are going to walk away because you've been doing this for 5 years now, and you're not going to tolerate this behavior anymore. And dad was in recovery, and dad's like, yes, let's do it. So mom's more of the enabler, like, oh, well, is he going to die out there?
Pay his credit card.
Yeah, you got to pay his credit card. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you got to regain mom and remind mom, look what that's doing to his brother, your other son, that's been neglected because you're so focused on the freaking addict. Is that fair to him? Because he's acting out, he loses his mom because you're so enmeshed in his insanity. We're going to appoint you a case manager, and moving forward, you have a relationship with the case manager. You don't need a relationship with your son until he gets clean.
That's right.
When he gets into recovery. So the family was all like, okay, this is it. They all read their letters, just like he's already in treatment, so it's not like you need to go to treatment. They all read their letters, how much they love him, they want him back, but they're not willing to tolerate that drug addict behavior anymore. So, and if you do, we're done with you. And so at the end of it, he goes, I'm getting tired of this, and he goes, let's all just go out and get something to eat, because they all flew into Palm Springs to be with him. They're from, another state. Let's go get something to eat. And the father goes, we're not here to eat with you. He goes, we're here to tell you what our bottom lines are. And if you don't get this shit, we're out of here for good. And they got up and they packed their stuff and they left them there. And that was the win that needed to be knocked out of him.
That was the moment.
That's the moment.
Yep.
And if he would have had that in his first treatment center, that the family cut him off. And again, it's really complex because I had a strong family. But most families aren't that strong because they don't go through it 5 times. But this family was 5 times, they're done. But my job, our jobs, is to get that family to be done on the first one. Because if they get done, then they'll be done. So when they go through treatment, now they get a case manager that takes them from the minute of the intervention through detox, through residential, through IOP, through aftercare, through the whole 5 years, just like the doctors. That person is following them through, and that person's, because, an addict, they'll be like, oh, I feel better, I'm not going to do this. They're not going to stay on the recovery track, and they're going to start dictating what they're going to do. And then they start doing that, and then they fall into relapse. So it's not their fault. There's nobody keeping them on track.
There's no accountability.
There's no accountability. But we're keeping them accountable and the family strong. So doing that and creating that for the public, and the best news is 3 years ago, we got this Joint Commission accredited for the case management. So now we're able to do it for a lot of people that have insurance. So it's not just the cash pay like the doctor diversion programs are, or the pilots, because they have to pay for that out of pocket and they have the money to do it. But the everyday person that doesn't have the money, we're able to now go ahead and give them these services because insurance is willing to pay for it.
Wow, that's great. Really great.
That's a big deal. It's actually a really big deal because if there's an ability for an interventionist, a case manager to be billing for that, they don't have to worry about always hustling to try to find that, you know what I mean? Because that's a lot of pressure for people. I mean, if that's built into the system, that fixes it just fixes a lot of stuff.
And insurance is really excited about it too at some level because they never want to pay, right?
Yeah.
They're not excited about paying anything.
But they did a study, Humana I think it was, they did a study that they gave case managers for high risk people. So anybody that's like just gets out of the hospital, a senior, they appointed case managers to them. And within 1 year, they saved $800 million in 1 year.
Because they're not paying for treatment
That's right.
additionally.
Exactly. They're not going back in because they're re-injured. They're not going back in because they didn't take their medication. So the
kind of-
emergency visits, all the other
That'd
things.
be great if they could get on board with
Well, see,
that.
and here's that's why that's so exciting for me, because I have a client right now, and he's been to 53 treatment centers. 53, okay?
That's got to be a record.
That's the one most I've heard.
The horrible thing here is, what I see is, why is the treatment centers letting him back? Why do they continuously, like that? Why? If he would have had a case manager, and now he's sober with med management and with a case manager, me, he's sober 8 months.
Yep.
And all it took was getting in there and giving him his schedule, getting in there and showing him what he needs to do.
That's it.
That's stuff that we do all the time. And now he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to worry about it. He's already doing it, and he loves it. He's doing the right thing. You know, and families out there, they want that, but they can't afford it. So if it can go on an insurance and they can have the same kind of care from people like us, oh my God, less people in treatment, more money saved. I mean, it's endless what can happen.
You said, why would the treatment center do it? And it's because of
It's
money.
Because of money.
Which is another thing that you're doing that is fantastic, which is intervention 911. I caught a little bit of switching through and saw that, but you know, we want to be an ethical leader at Brighton. When I speak of we, and you guys clearly live it. But talk a little bit about some of the ethical practices and why you did, or the lack of ethical practices.
You got another show?
Got that much time.
Yeah, that's a lot of
We'll
time.
miss our flights.
Yeah. So, but I mean, because it is important work, and that's why we wanted you here, is to be transparent and learn and to figure it out and make sure, because we want to be there. And so, but can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Independent Coalition of Treatment Providers is a bunch of providers that came together with this ethical thing, and the 5-year plan actually is what the way it started was, why doesn't everybody get the 5-year plan? So we all flew, a bunch of us flew to Joint Commission in Chicago. We met with them. We had them put case management and intervention on their policy and procedure list. So now that that's accredited by Joint Commission, then we were able to get insurance to pay for it. And as we're doing this, all the unethical treatment centers are all over. And if you look at them, a lot of them are Joint Commission accredited.
That's right.
And so I asked them, I said, what can we do about this? You know, can you change your policy and procedures to kind of work on the financial part? And because it is in their policy and procedures that there is financial guidelines, but it doesn't track it enough to find out, is the money coming in from overbilling urines? Are they double billing for different services from the same client? You know, who's monitoring where it comes in, and then who's monitoring where it goes out? And unfortunately, that's not their practice. Joint Commission does patient care and patient safety. That's their focus, to make sure that you have the best excellent care, and it's safe, the environment, the sprinklers, everything that they do. So they do a great job at that, but we're like, well, we're still at our, what are we going to do to get these bad guys out of our industry? So we did a national search to figure out who would be the right person to follow that, their money coming in, the money going out, who's going to check on, is there body brokering going on? How do you check that at the end when they're leaving, where the money's going? Is it paying per patient? So there's a way to track all of that. And so we went to PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and sat down with them, and they were more than open to doing this. And about a year ago, we went in contract with them. And just recently, we finally finished the policy and procedures for that with them. So if you join Independent Coalition, you have to have your Joint Commission accreditation. You can't even apply without that, because we're not going to get involved in policy or patient care and safety. They cover that, and they're excellent at that.
Yeah.
But on the business side, on the ethics, we needed somebody besides saying, hey, Michael, can you come into Intervention 911 and tell everybody that I'm doing everything ethical?
Yeah.
We
can all do that.
We could all do that. Here, Michael, sign right here and say you're doing everything ethical, right?
So ethical.
Take this ethics course for
Take this,
6 hours.
That's a good one.
And you're ethical.
Exactly. And traveling all over the country, and that's why I'm really excited that you guys are interested in doing this, because traveling all over the country and going to visit treatment centers and doing, nonstop, and they tell you they're the most ethical, they're the best in the world, and then you leave, and then you see them on the newspaper.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this one. A quick story on this one was the 2020 thing that Chris Herron did. That
Chris Hansen?
no, the
I was
treatment
thinking
center
just catch a
owner-
predator.
That's 2020. Chris.
Yeah, I
what was
remember.
his treatment?
Chris. God, what was his name?
We'll find it and put
Yeah,
it.
he's a guy that
Yeah.
he was on 2020 for sleeping with clients, and had all this video evidence of his car at the
Baffling.
hotel.
Baffling.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So, years ago, when I first started, he scholarshiped a client for me, and so when they said, "Is there anybody that speaks highly of you?" he put my name on the list.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, you're sleeping with clients is what I'm seeing on 2020.
Jesus.
But my name's on your list as a good guy. So here you go to these treatment centers, they tell you everything's ethical and above board, but I can't see behind the iron curtain.
No, you always see what they want you to see.
Exactly. And that's what the public gets to see, is what they want you to see. So who's looking behind the iron curtain besides Joint Commission?
That's right.
So now we got PwC to go back, and they could look at the ethics and see if you're doing everything properly. And if you get that, then you could get accredited with us and be able to, with Independent Coalition, that organization.
It's great work, and it could help. I mean, the more that people that get on, I know the way we view it is if, we want to know, maybe there is something we're unintentionally doing.
Yes.
But if
right.
we're doing, if everything that we do, we want to be transparent, we want to be honest, and we're in this to help people. And if we can get better from it, it's fine. So I think it's fantastic. It's a great idea.
Look, for me, it's the missing piece, because as you go and tour these treatment centers, and it's everybody's the favorite lines. We're trauma, we do the trauma, we're holistic. All those things that people say to get you in the door, and then you go there, and they're not any of it. Like 9 times out of 10, all of them, they're just not what they say they are. So I think that people need to be going to the appropriate treatment center. Trauma patients need to go to a trauma-informed place. It needs to be done right. It doesn't need to be the way it is now. It's insanity, man. They got people going into a detox center, and then they got another person going in there and body brokering them and pulling them out. Like, it's the system that we're in right now is scary. Like,
It's an opportunity to get better, though, too, and weed
Yeah.
out the crap.
That's right.
You can't go after them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, going after them is a waste of time, because
That's
they're
right.
going to create something new. They're always going to create something new that they're going to
That's
go
right.
after. So to go after them is a waste of time. But like years ago when Joint Commission first, was in 1989, the treatment center, it was like everybody still panics when
Yeah.
they come to do their audit, right? They're like, oh my God.
They carried weight with their name.
Yeah, and when they came to do ours at KSC, I was like, I feel like you're looking under my skirt. I was like, it's very inappropriate. Finding everything out about what we do. But I wanted them because, like you said, I wanted to know if I wasn't doing something right. Because if I'm not doing it right, I want to be able to correct it.
Exactly.
So this, with PwC and Independent Coalition of Treatment Providers, with that, you're able to have an even playing ground. So now we're all doing something like patient care and safety is done with Joint Commission. And now the ethics part in the even playing, we're not patient brokering, we're not overbilling, we're on an even playing ground. And the part I love the most about all of this is educating the public on that, to say, ask, did you have your audit, your ethics audit?
This
I'm
helps
okay with-
families so
Yeah.
much. Like, it stops families from spending $60,000 and then the person getting kicked out the next day. Like, this is going to save families from really bankruptcy. I mean, because people, they throw their whole life savings away to save their children, save their family member. And it's sad when they throw them to a treatment center that's not able to take care of them. So that's the exciting part for me, is that you're going to know what you're dealing with now. I won't have to worry about traveling across the country and if this treatment center is going to be okay. It's going to be, I know this treatment center is okay, and I don't ever have to question it anymore. That's a big deal, because the work that we do, and when we go visit these treatment centers, just like we just said, it looks so amazing. Anybody can make things look amazing.
Yep.
But the fact that we're talking to clients here and they're like, this place is great.
Yeah.
A client, he's just barely got, he's like, I love it, I'm great, everything's doing great. Like, you don't typically.
Let's talk to him in a week, though.
Yeah,
What happens?
but typically you don't.
I'm better.
That's right. But typically you don't hear that
Yeah.
anyway at the beginning of anything with anybody in treatment. So I mean, the fact that they're bringing something that's going to change things.
And I
So
think
it's important.
I think when you're doing the right thing, there's no bullshit about
Yeah.
it. You can tell when someone's doing things and it's the same thing for a business, for especially, I mean, in this industry, you guys can tell you've done this so many times, and I'm sure there's centers you go into and you know immediately, ugh, or you come into a place where you feel it and you know, oh, this is where healing is happening. And if with what you've created and worked with the PwC to be able to create an additional standard that will help to prove that we're doing things the right way is a benefit. And if you don't see it as a benefit, what the hell are you doing?
That's right. And the people that are all making a big stink of it, and then we battle every day on the social media, like especially me, because I hate bullies. Like, I'm not big, I don't like them. And so, when he brought this to the attention of people, there's people out there, they're running their mouths because they don't know the facts. They're so quick to say something and they don't have the facts on any of us or anything that we do. They worry about listening to what everybody else is saying, and it's insane. Like that, the insanity of the flack that you get and the flack that I get because I just speak up, because I don't hold anything back. I'll tell you like it is. The flack that we're getting for doing something good is insane.
What is the flack? I mean, I'm not on Facebook, and it's part of my recovery for literally, I had my niece change the password and delete it. It had on it was one of those things I wanted to just separate from. But what is some of the...
I mean, this guy that was on one of the sites the other day, I just posted it and I said, here's an example, because it was an ethics, page. And I was like, here's an example, so you don't have to question it. If you're really ethical, have a third party. And he pulls it down and you're self-promoting.
Yeah.
I was like, self-promoting? I was like, what do you mean I'm self-promoting?
I'm self-promoting ethics.
We're promoting something that's going to fix the industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, doesn't this make sense? And he goes, well, a lot of people don't like you. And he started all this crazy shit.
And then I just nailed in on that feed, and I shut it all down, and I called all of them out for their behavior, because that's not how we change. They were too busy talking about the bad all the time. And here he's trying to bring something to the table that's going to fix things in our industry. And the first response from some of these people is, it's like hot, don't touch it, it's hot. They're scared. And it's fear, because those are the people that are doing the wrong things. The loudest voices that are out there running their mouths, saying he's unethical, saying I'm unethical, we ambush clients. Like, those are the people that their background is so shady. Because our history, we're here. Yeah. Our life is, this is it. Like, our lives are in the public, and there's no hiding from anything.
I don't want to hide.
That's right. Like, it's so much easier to participate in life above board. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much easier. And them creating this and the shitstorm that's being kicked up, it's not a bad thing, because we're seeing all the people that were good guys. And it's breaking our heart at the same time, but it's good for us, because we're seeing that and we understand, okay, so we need to do a little bit more work in checking out these treatment centers. And even though Joe Schmo has this great history, that doesn't mean Joe Schmo's good.
Yeah. And we're not inviting everybody. Like, I'm not plastering that all over my regular social media, because I only want ethical people to be able to invite other ethical providers. So I don't want this to be a free-for-all, that everybody's invited to come in, right?
Well, no, because they could twist that around for some kind of promotional thing. Like, look, we got the stamp of approval for this, and I see that.
So that's why I posted on an ethical page, thinking this is some people that have a cause around this, and this would be. And the attacks that came out on me were just nasty. And I was like, I'm going to file a lawsuit for
slander.
Slander. I was
Is
like,
that just part of it? Do you think it's just because of this celebrity and because of your profile?
I don't know, because I said these people don't know me. Do you know how many? I would say I spent at least 50 to 100 grand. I'm going to PwC, I'm going to Joint Commission, flying all over the country, doing this on my dollar. Nobody gave me the money to go do this. I did this on my time, that I'm not working with families. Right. I'm trying to do this to make it a better industry.
You saw a hole in the industry, and you recognized it, and you wanted to fill it.
I mean, going to an insurance convention. I remember one of them, to fly to DC on short notice, it was like $2,000, and then to get in, it was like $2,800 just to get into the convention. And I was like, all this money is coming out of my pocket to try to help the industry. It ain't to help me.
That's right.
How is it going to help me? It's going to help the industry, and they're attacking me. I was like, it doesn't make sense
at all.
But with that kind of venture, anybody that tries to do something bigger on a bigger level like that, and they're leading them, it's going to come different.
It brings the haters. That's what it is. We hate
talked
that
about
word.
them sitting there.
It's the trolls and the haters on there, and it's sad, because it's nothing negative that's being like, it's not negative. That's a good thing that he's done, and the people are voicing their rage. It's because they're hiding something, and it's very apparent. Because if something's good, then it's good.
If something's good, and even let's say worst case through this process that you figured out, oh, we shouldn't be doing that. Well, then at least you have figured that out and
That's
learned.
right.
Somewhere you can the mirror with recovery. It's like, okay, I was miserable at 4 years. It's like, well, what am I doing? What do I need to do? I go back and I'm going to do the work.
Exactly.
And we correct it, and then that within itself is the integrity. That within itself is the honesty, and that within itself is a platform to get better. So I commend you for doing it and fighting the good fight.
There needs to be more good guys out there, man. We're helpers. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Like,
All I was doing is asking for help.
We're
I was
supposed
like,
to.
let's help each other.
We're supposed to be
Yeah.
helping each other, because that's what we do, and like it's turning into a. It's because there's so much money involved, guys. I mean, we
That's
know
what
that.
it
It's
is.
because, look, we're not talking about
A lot of money
We're not
involved.
talking about $1 million a year industry here. We're talking about $1 billion industry. Okay, this isn't. That's why it's so hard. We know that. That's why it's so hard to get some of these programs to do the ethical thing, because they're making so much money unethically. Like, why would they stop? You know, I get it. Like, if you're pulling in $4 or $5 million every month, and you've been doing it this way, they're not going to change, and it's going to be the police coming in or the FBI coming in and fixing these things, because there's literally programs out there that are stealing millions of dollars, and it's sad. So to be able to have this kind of organization, it's just a no-brainer. Like, I don't understand why
Because
people are
it taps
fighting.
into people's dollars.
That's
and then
right.
You start messing with people's
That's
bottom
right.
lines, and they're gonna
Financial
push.
insecurity is huge.
They're gonna push back. I mean, it's
Mhm.
you look at all we were talking on the way up here, all the poor decisions that are made from either a political level and lobbyists. There's all kinds of things that are done in the name of the dollar.
On Google right now, right?
Yep.
Remember they stopped
That's right.
taking advertising for our industry because people are advertising falsely, and they're
Clickbait sites where
Yeah.
you click on it and it'll take you to some other site completely not even what you're looking at.
So Google put a block on that for right now, right? So I'm in my hotel room this morning and I'm like, checking to see if my internet works. And I go on Google and I type intervention in just to see if my internet works. That's the only reason why I did it. The first one that pops up is free interventions. Free interventions.
That's such a ploy.
So that's
Did you
part
click
of
it?
Yes, of course I
course.
did. And it says, we will do your intervention for free. And it's like, somebody's paying for that. Nobody's doing it for free. Or so are you billing the insurance unethically and using that money that you get for treating them in treatment to do their intervention?
That's exactly what
Because
they do.
something unethical is happening here. You're not getting a free intervention, period.
Period.
So, when all this shady stuff is going out, PwC is going to look at their marketing practices. They're going to look at their website and make sure while they're here, oh yeah, this is what's on their website. Free interventions. How do you give it a free intervention?
Yeah, I want to know.
Right? I'd
Yeah.
love to do it. When people ask me, can you do it for free? I was like, I don't know. Do you go to work for free?
Yeah.
I was like, I wish I could. If I had a grant, I could.
That's right.
So that unethical practices is still going on in our industry, and we have to do something about it. And I'm glad Google's starting to do something, but I was completely shocked to see number one, free interventions.
And they know that the people that are building these websites, they know those tag words. They
Yep.
know free. Anything that's going to bring, everybody's going to
They're
call.
gonna call.
And it's probably linked to something, and there's always a trick bag in it. And if we can't stop that, man, it's going to get worse and worse. Like, we've just barely tapped the criminality behind it. Like, it's
When
going to
it's
get
given,
worse.
it gives the good guys,
Yeah.
the helpers, and there's so many in this industry, and those ones hopefully will stand up and go through the process.
good outweighs the bad.
And absolutely
The good
it
outweighs
does.
the bad.
Always.
It's
The
completely
bad
outweighs
just
the
makes
bad.
for good
Yeah.
for good television.
Yeah, I mean, and it is good to talk about it, but the thing is like he's talking, I'm talking, you're talking. We're doing something about it. We're out there on the front lines. We're actually out there. We're in the courthouses. We're doing the things that we need to do for our communities. Like that's what I'm doing in my home, and that's where I do when we go to Atlanta. Like, we're doing all those things because we want to see the change, because people are dying. That's the thing.
You said that in the there's a clip on the commercials, and you say people are dying, and we got to do something about
That's
it.
right.
As far as the show goes, it just popped into my head. I have a question. Early on, I could see how you kept it hid from the client, from the perspective, like, because you were talking about it's a documentary on addiction. how do they not know now?
That's
this
funny.
many
Everybody
years?
asks me that. It's so funny.
No,
Like,
well, no, but I'm curious. I want to hear it from you guys. I have an idea, but
I have an idea of what it is.
but they really don't.
Most of the time they really don't.
You know,
And
They
maybe,
don't.
but even if they did know, and there's like, oh, well, this is my chance.
But they're on drugs. You got to understand this. These people that we meet, they're so messed up. Like they don't know. They honestly don't. Sometimes they put it together.
well, if they do put it together, I've had this happen numerous times where they'll have their mic on and they'll be in the bathroom and saying, hey, this is intervention, you're going to get free treatment, you know, we got to keep this going. And the minute we hear that, the production company, I love this about them, they shut it down. They were like, sorry, you know, only once in the 12 years that I've been a part of it have they not shut it down. And the only reason why we didn't shut it down is because the family was so codependent. If she stayed there, they would have got sicker and she would have died.
Yeah.
So that time we knew it, and we said, we know you know it's intervention, and you know we're still going to help. But the reality is that, you know, every other one that they know, they shut it down because it's not reality. Then it's
Yeah.
produced.
Then it's fake.
It's fake.
Yeah.
So-
They really don't know. Like my wife asks me all the time. She's like, "How did they not know?" She's like, "We were active. We were watching that." It's like the generation today is different.
Yeah.
They really don't know. Like they're focused on their drugs. They're focused on manipulating their family. They're focused on manipulating the producer while they really don't know.
That's cool.
But there's those times where they do know, and it happens. You know, I did an intervention with John, and the guy knew, and right when we were getting ready, he took off running.
Yeah.
You know, but it made for good TV because it all played in together, and he ended up going. But it was like, that's how it is. He really didn't know it. He found it right then, and he was just so surprised.
I think with the continued work of people like both of you, and then the spotlight of the show, it helps. It clearly does, because it's shining a light on all of it, and there's still so many people out there that are in the dark on it about the.
This is just one area. Like, this is just Atlanta. Like, it's showing you the sickness, the diseases. It is showing everything, but this is just one area.
We had that in Massachusetts, here at Pioneer Park in Salt Lake. I mean, it's going on in every community,
It's
every
Every
city.
everywhere.
community has it. Every
Everywhere.
community. My
Everyone.
sister's like, oh my God, you know, I can't believe this is going on in that town. And I was like,
Where do you live? It's
You're-
going on there too.
I was like, go down to North Street, honey, where you live.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'll
It's
find
going
it.
on over there too, guaranteed.
But see, that's the thing that I'm actually finding too is people. I'm always on planes and stuff, so people always pick up conversations, and they ask me what I do, and then really society doesn't know about what's going on. Like, unless somebody brings it up, most people don't know that there's an opioid epidemic going on. They have no clue. They just don't know, and it's because nobody wants to talk about it, because if they're talking about it, it's there, and they have to really look at it.
Yeah.
But the majority of people out there in the real world, they don't understand the drug. They don't even know what's going on. People don't watch the intervention. Like, most people don't watch it because they don't even know it exists. The only people that really are watching it are people like in recovery, and it's expanding
I
more.
started watching when I was really sick.
Yeah.
Like and I can remember watching it and thinking, oh, I'm probably worse than that
Yeah.
guy. It's like I'm watching it just.
I love watching the comments from people because they say they have no clue. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's like when they don't realize it's going on in their own community, and that blew me away when some of the people were like, "This is in our community." They had no idea.
In the heroin triangle where it's being
Yeah,
dubbed?
they had no clue. They were like, "What are you talking?" Like, they're commenting on it, and I'm like, "How do you not know?
Yeah.
Like, how do you not know what's going on?" It's for me, when I see a drug addict or even just a pot smoker or even just somebody I can tell
Yeah.
instantly.
For sure.
I can just see it. You see the pain all over.
It takes one to know one.
Yeah,
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, but that's sad that most people don't even know. Like, and that's why getting it out there, voicing it, and letting the people know there is an option, there is something you can do about it. Like, that's important, man, and that needs to be spread out there because, throwing money at it's not going to fix it. It's not. It's
The power of media. I mean, we're so grateful that the show is going on because the power of media is just like helping millions of people.
Yep.
Like, even what you said,
Yep.
like traveling all over, at every airport I get stopped and on my way here, the woman behind me says, "Are you Ken Seeley?" And, "Oh my God, I love the work that you do."
Yeah.
But they all tell you that it helped them in some manner.
That's right.
Just walking in here, one of the clients stopped me and said, "Oh, I've been watching that show for years." So the power of media and getting inside to their homes to show them the devastation that this disease does and giving them a solution, that there is an answer out there, I think is the most powerful thing. And that's what I'm honored to be a part of, is that we're able to help millions of people without even knowing we're helping millions of people.
Yeah, the ripple effect of the show is more a wave. It's massive.
Yeah.
And the idea of sharing the education, that it doesn't, the thing that fascinates me the most about in intervention is the boundaries that can make it work, but they don't need to have the willingness, because really for me that's what it was. All they got to have is the willingness in that moment to realize, okay, the family's going to do this, and the power of that to know it's like, okay, you're not helpless as a family member. You can. There is an option. Yeah. It's amazing. I wanted to ask you guys about legalization.
Legalization
of drugs.
Of drugs in general, or just marijuana?
Well, marijuana to start. I've often, I don't know, I kind of looked at the model, it's like if you tax the hell out of it, and I'm pretty liberal though.
Yeah.
But
I have a big opinion on it.
Let's hear it.
Here's the thing, man. Not everybody is going to find recovery the same way, okay? And there's...
You mean it's not black and white?
It's just not. I wish it was. It'd be so much easier. But, I know a lot of people that were just dragged down, just heroin junkie addicts, and medically assisted treatment or marijuana maintenance or whatever you want to call it, they're doing good now, and it's about a quality of life. So for me, I know I can't go and smoke a joint. I know I can't go and get a beer.
I would like to.
I know that. You know what I mean? I understand that. But for some people, I think there's an ability to help them on a different level, and they're not like us. They're not real addicts or alcoholics.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. And if there's an ability to help somebody who's shooting needles in his arm his whole life, and if the answer for that man is Suboxone, or if the answer for that man is marijuana maintenance, I don't care. It's not my recovery, it's his recovery. And if his quality of life is improved, then that's okay for him. Is it something that I promote? No, it's not. Do I think it can help a lot of people? Sure, I think it can. Do I want to be a part of that? No, because I just don't. But I do think that there is qualities in it. I think.
The reason why I don't want to be a part of it is because I think they're using it for the end all. Like, here's a 22-year-old coming into your treatment center. Let's get him on Suboxone.
Yeah.
It's his first experience. They don't even know anything, and they're just throwing him on the drugs.
Yep.
And that's what upsets me. I get it if they've been through 10 treatment centers, they can't stop heroin. Absolutely, let's try an alternative.
Try it.
Let's do the implant or whatever that they need to get. But the reality is that the industry is taking it to the next level, which is when they get out of treatment, they're showing up with bags of medication.
Yep.
I mean, when I got out of treatment in 1989, I didn't have no medication. I didn't even have aspirin. I had nothing when I left treatment. But nowadays, they're just like throwing meds at these kids instead of giving them the opportunity of really getting this. And I think instead of throwing the meds at them, get the family strong to say no on those 3 positive things that they love, and you don't have to give them meds.
That's right.
They're going to know. They're smart enough that they know they don't want to live in that pain that the family's going to yank if they continue on heroin or whatever their drug of choice is.
But on a deeper, maybe a coalition that would be good, or a company that would be good, is to, with doctors and prescriptions, we know why they're prescribing. It's money.
Yeah, it's money.
But if you could dig in, and similar to what you're doing, maybe that'll be your next massive thing to tackle. Like, look at the doctors and all the prescriptions they're writing, and because it is a problem.
Well, the doctors, they get on board because the reps come to them and they give them all the samples, and if you prescribe this, you get this. Like, that's how it works. And is that ever going to change? I don't know. It's been going on for a long time.
It's a lot of politicians elected.
That's right. That's what it is.
You've battled with eating disorder and with all the different kinds. So as far as, has exercise played a role in your recovery?
Well, I've done so many things in the last 8 years on my eating disorder. Like, I went to FA, Food Anonymous, and they didn't allow you to exercise during that time frame. And I did really well for the 90 days that I was in it maybe 4 or 5 months, and I did really well in it, but it was too militant for me. It was like, you could only eat this amount. You got to weigh and measure every single meal. And I was like, you go to a restaurant and everybody's eating, and it's like, it just became too, punitive, I think.
That seems not like a lot of balance. Like, and we seek balance, right?
Yeah.
That seems very much excessive on the
But
other
it
end.
works. I mean, a lot of people are in that program. I love the program. It works for a lot of people. But for me, it just felt too punitive. And when I was in my love addiction, sex addiction, I went to the gym every day because you have to have a good body to get what you want. Hello. So I was going to the gym every day. So I knew what to do is to go to the gym would help me get back into shape. But this time I'm doing it for my health, because when I hit 270, at 6 foot, my doctor was like, I had heartburn. My digestive system wasn't working right. I felt pains in my chest, and my blood pressure went up. And I was like, I got to do something about this, And I think it was the trauma, going through those 4 weeks of trauma, the workshops that Judy Crane does, going through that and getting to the other side and working on that was that switch again. And it happened a year ago in October. And that switch turned on, and I was like, I'm done. And I started riding my bike to the gym every day. Because I was too big to even go to a normal gym. So I just joined this tiny little gym that nobody would see me at. My shirts were out to here, and I was like, oh my God. The pictures that I have, I was so huge. But I just, that shift happened, and I said, okay, I got to watch what I'm eating, and I got to. So then I posted about this too, because then the skin was left there. When you lose weight at 54 years old, this is 55 now, the skin is left there and it's not going anywhere. So I went into a doctor and I said, can you just pull this out with liposuction? Because I had that 4 times. I was like, oh, just got a little liposuction here. And they were like, yeah, it's not liposuction, that's skin. And I was like, okay, just take it out. So I'm thinking, oh, that's no big deal. They cut me in half.
Jesus.
In a circle, and took 5 inches of skin off the front and 3 inches off the back. I was in the worst pain in my
You were
entire
texting me.
life.
You were
And
like,
so
"I'm
you
dying."
obviously didn't take the meds?
Oh, I had to.
Okay,
I was in
so-
the hospital, and my blood pressure was so high. They were like, "Oh, this is an outpatient procedure," and my blood pressure was so high because of the anxiety of the pain that they had to put me in the hospital for 4 or 5 nights.
Jeez.
So I was in the hospital because my blood pressure couldn't get regulated, and then they finally got me out. And John Southworth was him and Eric were the only 2 that came to visit me in the hospital. So I always remember that, because John would never go to a funeral or a hospital, and it was so nice to wake up out of my drug. But the doctors there were like, my doctor knew I was in recovery, and I was like, I need this monitor. Don't leave it up to me. It needs to be up to John, my case manager, or Eric. And the doctor, it's up to them. And so the doctor comes in, another doctor, and he's doing rounds, and he said, I'm your pain management doctor. He goes, can I bring in a pump? And I was like, oh, a pump? Okay. That's where my mind goes. And I was like, no, did you read my chart? I'm in recovery. And I was like, I would have loved to sit in the room. Oh, this is nice. Thank you, doctor. And I was like, no, I'm in recovery. I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, no, you're in pain. You might need it. You want me to get one? I'll prescribe it right now.
So there's some of the doesn't understand even within working in the industry where you absolutely should.
Exactly.
It's one of my fears. I have a bunch of work I need to get done on my teeth and different things, and I know I'm going to make the right decision, and I know I'll handle it correctly, but at this point, I was telling him it's like a game. I don't take anything. I don't, and except for a vitamin in the morning, and I haven't in my entire recovery so far. But I know I'm gonna have to cross that bridge, and it's nice to hear that there's people that cross
but
it.
you have to set your. I just did an episode on the doctors. The doctor show.
Yeah.
It hasn't aired yet. It's gonna air this month. But I did one about that exact reason, about people that. It was one of my biggest fears, because you see people with 30, 40 years going out on pain meds.
And you listen.
Right?
You listen when those people are talking.
Oh my, and they go out, and I was like, I'm not going through this with no pain meds. I can't handle pain. And I was like, but I need to do something about this. So the episode was about, if you do have an addiction issue, how to prep yourself prior to going in for any type of surgery.
I'll have to check that out.
Like, you gotta, I would recommend, what I did is I had John as my case manager, Eric handing out the meds, and I'm sitting there with 28 years sober, and I'm sitting there on they gave me They gave me oxys first, but they didn't touch the pain. So then they put me on Dilaudid. And so I'm sitting there on Dilaudid.
Sounds wonderful.
I'm sitting there in my dining room like this, no TV on, nothing, just dead quiet in the house staring at a wall.
That's right.
I was like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I could probably get on that insurance plan that professionals get, that if you can't work, you get paid anyway. And I could retire and just pop these pills the rest of my life. This is perfect. So I'm like planning this big thing in my head.
Right?
I'm like, this is really nice. And then there was, Eric would always take the pills and not give them to me. And then I saw him on the counter one day, and I was like going to the bathroom, and you can't even walk. The pain was the worst in the world. And I saw the pills, and I was like, nobody will know if I took an extra one. Nobody's counting them. So it ignited the disease, and it went like, it's like a tiger. It was like, just go with it. But because I have a lot of consequences put into place, like if I relapse, I lose everything. So I don't tell my families to do this. I have it where all bank accounts are out of my name. All real property is out of my name. I don't own any real estate. I don't have any access to money. All my credit cards are shut down. So if I relapse, all of that is put into a family agreement, because I don't want my addiction to steal that for when I do get healthy, until I finish 90 days of inpatient treatment and the doctors tell Eric that, and the therapists tell him that I'm not manipulating them. Okay?
Wow.
So I have my family contract put into place, but because I had that, and I would lose my career, because who's going to hire an interventionist on pills?
That would be a hell of a story, Ken.
Right.
That could be a whole other show. Ken goes out.
Oh, God.
Ken, are you there? Ken?
Just phone.
What are you looking at on the wall? There's not even a painting there.
Everything's great. Oh, wow.
So set it up. Do your homework and, make sure that you have a whole recovery plan. And my doctor, he was writing the script. And I didn't even know he was writing a script. And he goes, I know you're in recovery, because I've been on the doctors before, and I help people get into treatment on that show. And so he goes, I know you're in recovery. So what is your med management plan? And I was like, oh, well, how did he even know to ask, And I was like, well, John's going to help us out, and Eric's, and they would joke around. Does this say every 4 to 6 hours, or does it say every 12 to 24?
4 to 6 every 1 to 2 hours.
Yes, 4 to 6 every 1 to 2 hours. That's how I read it.
They were reading it 12 to 24.
That's right.
I was like, let's go to the movies and come back and make sure he's okay.
That's right.
We'll take the meds with us. They were joking about it.
Of course.
What
My
are
wife
you-
did the same thing to me, too. When I
Yeah.
had to have surgery, it was the same thing.
What a relief to hear, though. I mean, I look up to you two. I know that you say that, and so many. I look across the table to you two, and I sincerely thank you both. I shared at the beginning that story of watching to be sitting here with you and sitting and spending the last couple of days and getting to know you guys. You do amazing work, and we need more helpers. And what you've both do and will continue to do, I just appreciate you taking the time. Brighton thanks you. I thank you for being on Recovery Soapbox.
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
This is cool. It's been fun.
Excited to see what Brighton is doing here, too.
Yeah.
You guys are doing amazing work. And really glad that you're going to get the ethical audit, and really glad that you're all above board in transparency. And the care, just walking through here and seeing how happy all the clients are, and I could live here. It's so beautiful.
Like, I was going to
I'm
slide
a
my
little
insurance
high
card and see if,
maintenance.
Well, if either of you go back out, this would be a safe place to be away from the pump. The drones, like Utah,
Do an
no
eating
one
track.
would
I'll
know.
check in tonight.
Could probably talk Jonathan into taking you on personally.
Oh, for sure.
I know you have a lot of picks, but we'll be right at the top if you ever go back out. On behalf of Brighton and Recovery Soapbox, Josh Hall, Ken Seeley, and Michael Gonzales signing off. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.